Hello again. We are back with some more Into the Lore Dead by Daylight, but this is with a twist. Since my other video included the archives and the base lore of each chapter, I decided I'm not going to do that anymore and will just simply do the lore because I've been covering the archives on my channel, so this will be much more streamlined and simpler. And what best to do this is with All Kill, a recent chapter that got an update with a new survivor and a new legendary killer, as well as its newest map, Trickster's Delusion. Now, let's get right into the lore. Trickster's Delusion, Associated Realm, Sleepless District. Hawk Jin-woon has spent years refining his sound, his image, his style. In one fell swoop, all of it was taken from him and put on a virtual idol. He walked the neon neighborhood in a rage. Even the signs seemed to predict the end of his career. Violent images flooded his mind. If only he could kill everyone in and around that club. Consequences be damned. But no. Vengeance will be reserved for those who brought Mina to life. Hawk Ji-woon, the Trickster. Hawk Ji-woon thrived under the attention of others, energized by every eye that watched him and every tongue that spoke his name. Amidst the prestige, he had only one desire: more. Even as a child, he found ways to draw crowds. Working at his family's restaurant, he attracted businesses with spectacles he performed using throwing knives. Gullible tourists believed it was a traditional South Korean experience, gladly parting with their money to witness it. Ji-woon's father spent the restaurant's earnings on dancing and vocal lessons for his son, pushing him to attain the fame he never could. Ji-woon did not disappoint. After years showcasing his abilities to nobodies at talent shows, he hit the track to stardom. Lee Yun-jin, a producer at Mighty One Entertainment, recruited Ji-woon into a training program. He transferred to a dormitory in Seoul, where, for 14 hours a day, he was crafted into a star, taught how to move and sing, how to carry himself with the right balance of competence and modesty. Draining as the process was, it worked. Yunjin selected Ji-woon to join the band No Spin, bringing a raw energy to their tracks. Fame was almost immediate. Ji-woon lived in the days of interviews and adoration, and though the frenzy schedule exhausted his bandmates, he was invigorated. Each day was an affirmation that he was greater than the mediocrity society spewed out. But over time, the champagne grew stale. When he looked at his fans, he saw their joy and envy split 5 ways, thinned out between each band member. The validation that had surged through him left a desperate yearning for more. Ji-woon kept up impressions, mimicking a charm long buried under loathing. He recorded the latest No Spin album with his bandmates, never missing a beat. After a lengthy lunch break, he returned to the studio to discover fate had granted him a gift. The scent of burning wires was unmistakable. He rushed to the control room, finding the door blocked by fallen speakers. On the other side, his bandmates pounded on the door, their cries accompanied by the crackling of flames. Ji-woon called to them, dashing to the speakers, grabbing one and stopping. He froze. Each breath was a conscious, deliberate process requiring all of his attention. The nearby cries hardly audible until, slowly, he backed away. And then he heard it. They were screaming his name as they burnt, screaming for him to save them. Ji-woon! Ji-woon! Hawk Ji-woon! It was the most beautiful thing he ever heard. When the fire crew arrived, his tears were genuine. Jin-woon was celebrated as a tragic figure, a hero who did all he could in a futile attempt to save his friends. Yunjin paraded him through interviews until it was time to rebrand. He was reborn as the Trickster, a solo artist who produced his own songs, sporting a soft heart beneath a wild exterior. But away from concert setups and television stages, something darker grew. He targeted those who lived alone, coming to them in the night. The first was a college music student with a captivating voice. Ji-woon woke him up with a baseball bat to the skull, binding his arms and legs, gagging him with a rag duct tape into his mouth. He tortured him for hours, dissecting him alive. Yet there was something missing. A sound. A connection. He wanted to hear the victim's wondrous voice pleading as he cut his belly open, but all he received was muffled cries through a rag. He learned and adjusted. Victims had to be abducted, driven to an abandoned building where he could let their voices carry unrestrained emotion. He made music from them, prodding in the right places to evoke different types of shrieks and howls. Stabbing the quadratus lumbrium elicited a long guttural wail, while slashing the carotid artery created a sound like a cat being strangled. There was honesty in their suffering. Jinwoo recorded each session, synthesizing and working them into his songs, hiding them behind layers of melodies. He was elated with his work. He left hints for police, arranging a mink boa from a recent photo shoot around a victim's slashed throat. For his next killing, he removed the teeth from a man that a boxer in one of his music videos was without. During a particularly odious plea for attention, he killed a fan he had met during a VIP meetup, replacing her eyes with diamond cufflinks and writing, "I have seen God," in blood across her chest. Each scene was a dazzling spectacle. Between music and murder, Ji-woon's work was discussed globally. However, as violence became his preferred art style, his music career took a hit. Revenue was down and Mighty One executives pointed their fingers at him. Yoon Jin, with professional fury, came to his defense, but she was outnumbered. It was decided that Jinwoo could no longer self-produce his songs. The decision was devastating. His tracks fused genuine humanity into music, yet executives rejected anything that wasn't generic and expected. And so be it. If they couldn't understand his art, he would incorporate them into it until they did. He had 3 months until he was to perform a private show for Mighty One's board members. 3 months to plan his magnum opus. He transferred obscene amounts of money to a veterinarian in exchange for canisters of nitrous oxide, then bribed a stage technician of Mighty One's private theater for access to the room. His celebrity granted him a benefit of the doubt no regular person could conceive. When the show was ready, gas seeped into the room as executives and stagehands awaited Ji-woon, conveniently running behind schedule. When he arrived, half-conscious bodies were splayed in their seats and crawling across the floor. He worked quickly, finding everyone, pausing only when he came to Yoon Jin, the woman who had plucked him from a mudhole and set him on the path he deserved. She would be rewarded, granted special access to the coming display of wonder. Even under sedation, she fought, a raging storm within her, far stronger than the others. He propped her up as the lone audience member, prying her eyes open. The others, sniveling and sobbing, were brought on stage to perform their final act. With a contemptible sneer, he slapped makeup onto their faces and shone stage lights upon them. They became his instruments. To the sound of self-produced melodies, he tortured them, gracefully, dashing from one body to another, conducting operatic crescendo from their wailings. They shouted, whimpered, screamed, cried for their loved one, cried for their mothers. It was a magnificent outpouring of emotion, of what it meant to be human, and they did it with eyes fixed on Ji-woon. Viscera drained from the stage until, with the toss of his throwing knife, the final human instrument fell silent, and the music stopped. Covered in sweat and blood, an exhausted Ji-woon looked to Yoon Jin and bowed. Curtain call. He had attained perfection, With blade in hand, he's made his way to Yunjin, prepared to tie up loose ends before the credits roll. But as he reached her, the fog. From where? He didn't know, but it billowed around them. Damp. Cool. Comfortable. He saw the grand stage, hospitals and temples, forests and slaughterhouses, an eternal plain adorned with rusted hooks, sustained by the million eyes that would watch him, run from him, experience him. All he had to do was accept, become an implement of the fog, and, most importantly, make them scream. Encore! On with the arsenal of throwing knives, the trickster overwhelmed fleeing survivors with a relentless barrage of blades. Seemingly safe actions like vaulting windows and dropping pallets turned into target practice for this twisted K-pop idol, whose stylish showmanship is rivaled only by his gleeful bloodlust. The trickster is a ranged killer, able to quickly unleash a flurry of blades by using his power, Showstopper. His personal perks, Starstruck, Hex Crowd Control, and No Way Out, allows him to quickly down would-be rescuers and block areas of the environment to his advantage. Hex Crowd Control, a hex that ensures those lesser than you are properly herded. When a survivor performs a rush vault action out a window, Hex Crowd Control activates on a random totem and triggers its effects. Blocks that window for all survivors, increase basic vault speed of blocked windows by 15%, reveals aura of blocked windows within 24 meters. Hex Crowd Control has a limit of 4 to 5 to 6 windows it can affect at a time. The Hex effect persists until a Hex totem either blessed or cleansed by a survivor, disabling it for the remainder of the trial.
You have no control, but you never did.
No Way Out. You are not going to let just anyone into the VIP room. Whenever you hook a survivor for the first time, No Way Out gains +1 token. Once the exit gates are powered, No Way Out activates, causes the first survivor to interact with either exit gate switches to trigger a loud noise notification at their location. Upon triggering the loud noise notification, No Way Out calls upon the entity for the following effect. Blocks both exit gate switches for 12 seconds. This time is extended by the additional 6 to 9 to 12 seconds per accumulated token, up to a combined maximum of 36 to 48 to 60 seconds.
That sound, you bleed. Let me hear it again.
Starstruck. Your unmatched showmanship dazzles all. Whenever you are carrying a survivor, Starstruck activates, causing all other survivors in your terror radius to suffer from the exposed status effect. This effect lingers for 26 to 28 to 30 seconds after affected survivor leave the terror radius or Starstruck deactivates. Starstruck deactivates after hooking or dropping the carry survivor and has a cooldown of 60 seconds.
Enjoy this moment. Few get so close.
In the grand scheme of things, Hawk Ji-woon only wants one thing: people to scream out his name. But there is one particular survivor that has a deep hatred for what he's done. And if she didn't care about her career, she could have stopped this madness. Lee Yun-jin, self-interest music producer. Resilient and ambitious, Yun-jin was born to a life of hardship, finding success in the music industry after years of effort and self-sacrifice. As a child, Yun-jin was fascinated by sound, mimicking drums and hitting keys on the piano. When she turned 10, however, she lost her instrument. Her family was heavily in debt and did not make the payments in time. The creditors took everything they owned, including the house. Yunjin held her 4-year-old sister tightly as she cried. They moved into a windowless 2-bedroom basement. Since her parents worked day and night to pay their debt, Yunjin became her sister's caretaker. Every night she sang until they both fell asleep. At 17, the renowned record label, Mighty One Entertainment, came to her high school to audition talent. She was rejected as an idol trainee, but obtained an unpaid internship at the studio. For the following years, She created some of the studio's biggest hits without any credit or recognition. To get her due, she emerged in the public eye wearing flamboyant fashion and put sound bites into her songs that looped her artist's name, magnum opus. Fans began to recognize her songs and she became the producer of No Spin, a poorly performing boy band who needed her special touch. Dissatisfied with No Spin's commercial sound, she sought a rogue element to make the band stand out. Through her contacts and talent shows, she found the edgy, raw sound of Hawk Ji-woon. She relaunched No Spin with Ji-woon as newest member. Within hours, her first video was a viral sensation. Their success cemented Yoonjin's reputation as a shrewd producer, adorned in high fashion to attend luxurious events. Yoonjin's harsh, impoverished childhood seemed far behind her. She moved into a penthouse and dined with socialites in skyline restaurants with breathtaking views of Seoul. The success of the first album broke records, setting the bar high for No Spin's second. As they were recording new tracks, the fire alarm suddenly blared. Concerned for her safety, Yoonjin hurried to evacuate the building and left the dialing staff behind. Only when she bolted out into the street that she realized No Spin was nowhere amongst the coughing crowd. A Goliath of flames engulfed the building, slowly tamed by the steady streams of fire hoses. All members of No Spin perished in the fire, except one, Ji-woon. The album was ruined. The band was over. She would be shelved while Ji-woon would rot away as an instructor for idle trainees. But she refused to be a victim who watched helplessly as vultures swooped in to take what was hers. Unknown to Mighty One's entertainment, she created new tracks to relaunch Ji-woon's career. She pushed him to tap into his grief and create a song exploring the pangs of sudden loss. The music video showed Ji-woon saying goodbye to each member of No Spin. Yoonjin cleverly launched the song under Ji-woon's newly adopted stage name, The Trickster. He would embody both fear and awe like the legendary Dokupi spirits. Ji-woon's song was a global phenomenon, the universal themes of grief and guilt resonating internationally. Together, Yoonjin and The Trickster toured the world. Success greeted them on every shore. Yet disturbingly, so did a series of eccentric murders. This connection unsettled Yoonjin, as she noticed that the tour date coincided with the victim's time of death. She was wary after the loss of No Spin and anxious to preserve her artist, so she increased the Trickster security detail. What if the serial killer was an unhinged fan fixated on the Trickster, inspired by the artist's morbid songs? Returning to Seoul, Yoonjin worked with Ji-woon on his new material. When she entered the studio at the brink of dawn, she was surprised to see Ji-woon already there. He seemed exhausted, like he had worked all night. When she listened to his track, she discovered a bizarre intro filled with shrieks and snares. It was too experimental for her taste. A week later, another death was reported. The body showed traces of torture and was arranged in the same flamboyant style as previous murders. This time, diamond cufflinks gouged into the victim's eyes. The following day, the victim was on every television channel. A video from the victim's social media showed her squealing, surprised when her boyfriend handed her a heart-shaped birthday cake. Yoonjin's stomach churned. That voice. So familiar, and yet she had never met the victim. The next morning, her heart froze when she listened to The Trickster's opening track. The shrieks in his song matched the victim's squeal. Did he sample the victim's birthday video? No, that was impossible. He had recorded this song before the murder was reported. She stared at Ji-woon on the other side of the bruised glass window. He was No Spin's only survivor. Everyone else was dead. Not to mention the eccentric murders that matched the tour dates. Death trails that seemed to converge to him. If he caused this, no artist will survive the scandal. Yoonjin's career, no, her life will be over. All she would be destroyed. A wave of nausea surged over her. Heart racing, she rushed to the restroom. Wild thoughts blazed through her mind as she splashed icy water over her face. There had to be a simpler explanation. Perhaps she was overworked, or maybe she did not trust her success. Her mind was fabricating the suspicion because disaster was easier to trust than success. It was all in her head. She returned to the recording booth, eager to put her worries behind her. Months later, pressure came from Mighty One's entertainment executives. Revenue was down and they blamed the trickster since they disapproved of violent themes in his music and the knife tricks he pulled during performances. While Yoonjin was furious they scapegoated her artist, she agreed that Jin Woon's sound was too niche to generate profit. She told Jin Woon she fought them off, but was ultimately outnumbered. Because of her initial fury, he believed her to be on his side. They were given 3 months to create and perform the next hit for Mighty One. Months flew by and the time came for Yoonjin to take a seat at the executive's private show. She was confident about her song, but as soon as the music started, she knew something was amiss. Dense foul smoke permeated the room. Yoonjin coughed and gasped for air, but the more she coughed, the more she inhaled. Her body sank into the chair, her limbs heavy and numb, and her eyes widened as she watched, terrified, a nightmare come to life. The trickster was a whirlwind of blood, slashing, stabbing, and chopping limbs. The executives were carved up like meat. They could not run. They were stuck like Yoonjin, paralyzed. A boiling rage swelled in her gut. How could she have denied her instincts? The fire, the murders on tour. It was him. It had always been him. And she had known from the start. Now her career was over, and so was Mighty One. Everyone she had worked with, her colleagues, her friends, dying before her eyes. Everything she had, taken from her once more. No, she would not let him. He would pay. He would know her suffering. Suddenly, dark coils of black fog rose from the ground, and she was somewhere else. Bright lights flashed and blinded her. A spotlight found her in the darkness. Then a crowd erupted, chanting her name. Magnum opus! Magnum opus! She smiled and welcomed the darkness within. What some call selfish, Lee Yoonjin calls practical. She didn't enter the music industry to make friends, though she can appreciate a little collaboration now and again. At the end of the day, she abides by an old classic: if you want something done right, do it yourself. Lee Yoonjin is a self-interest music producer, able to advance her goals during turbulent times. Her personal perks, fast track, smash hit, and self-preservation allow her to improve her abilities when others are harmed and quickly escape from a chase. Fast track. Sometimes the sacrifice of others is necessary to get ahead. Whenever you unhook a survivor, Fast Track is granted 1 token, up to a maximum of 1 to 2 to 3 tokens. Succeeding a Great Repair skill check consumes all accumulated tokens, permanently reduces the repair charge requirement of that generator by 5 charges per token.
The weak are sacrificed first. It's nature. It's business. It's the truth most refuse to face.
Self-preservation. Life is unforgiving. The more confirmation you get of that, the more prepared you become. Whenever another survivor is hooked, self-preservation triggers its effects, grants the elusive status effect for 20 to 25 to 30 seconds.
Something I learned in the industry. When the axe is swinging, keep your head down.
Smash hit. When your rival makes a mistake, you seize the opportunity. Whenever you stun the killer with a pallet, Smash Hit triggers its effect. Grants a plus 50% haste status effect for 4 seconds. Smash Hit cannot be used while exhausted. Smash Hit causes the exhausted status effect for 30 to 25 to 20 seconds.
I have dealt with psychopaths in suits. You're just uglier or stressed.
Lee Yoon-jin made a mistake not trusting her instinct on the trickster. That's one mistake she'll not make here. As she runs in this cat and mouse game, only thinking about herself, she'll sometimes help out once in a while. Once in a while.